Hello humans! Today on the chopping block we have this guy right here. This is a Yukon Gear sheepsfoot folding knife. Yukon Gear is an in-house brand for Canadian Tire, which is a big box store. I don't think that there's any other way of describing it. It's crappies. Canadian Tire. It's where you get stuff. And this is one of their in-house brands for outdoor equipment, rifle scopes, I don't know, camping supplies, shoelaces, knives, outdoor odds and ends. So I picked this guy up, and the main reason I picked this guy up, honestly, is it was on sale for $10, $9.99. Its typical price is $19.99. So it's a sub $20 knife. This does fit into what I consider to be the ultra budget category. Very, very inexpensive. If you're working minimum wage, this is slightly over an hour's worth of work, not by much, at least where I live. So yeah, little tiny guy, blade length 2.5 inches. That seems about right. We have blue, I'm assuming that's, yeah, anodized aluminum handle, corrosion resistant 420 stainless steel blade. I'm assuming that's 420 J2, which is pretty entry level. It's not uncommon to see at this price point. But it would be nice to get 420 HC. It's probably 420 J2 though, which is not the end of the world. Yukon Gear, go to extreme, whatever. Handle with caution, as knife blade is extremely sharp. I'll be the judge of that. Please keep away from children. Okay. Made in China, imported by blah 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 blah. Okay. Nothing super duper exciting about it. Let's crack this thing open and see what we've got. This is one of my least favorite types of packaging. It is plastic sandwiched in cardboard, which, depending on where you live, is a bitch to recycle, because the plastic actually in a lot of areas means you can't just recycle the cardboard outright. I like plain cardboard packaging. If it has to have plastic, I like the one where the plastic is glued to a cardboard backing, because it's just better. So, but let's see if that was enough. I don't want to cut into the aluminum. Okay, this is past the pocket. Oh, it does have a pocket clip. That's good. That's the other thing. There's like no advertising jargon for this. Normally you see a whole bunch of advertising jargon. Little tip protector there. And here we have it. So this is our Yukon Gear sheepsfoot folding knife. One position tip down pocket clip. That's going to be super fun. It's off center from factory, which seems about right. The aluminum handle has some type of like blasting prior to anodization. But it is still fairly slick, which is not unusual for an aluminum handle. It's just kind of what you get. Okay. It is a little bit tight in the pivot. And the hole isn't very big. It is nice and sharp, like it is taking a shaving off of my fingernail, actually. So it is nice and sharp, but there's just, I think it's just the liners. They're Teflon or nylon, or probably nylon. There's some type of plastic liner in there, which I'm assuming is what's doing that like added tension. It does have a detent ball in there. Liner lock, good access to the liner, I will say that. I want to get this to flick now. Almost, not quite. But yeah, it's a very small access hole. I am going to say the pocket clip is immediately creating a bit of a hot spot, which is kind of annoying. And there's no good way of getting right behind the blade. I feel, especially because this is such a small knife, I feel very far away from the heel of the blade. Between this being a small knife and this sort of ricasso area being fairly large, not quite large enough I'd be comfortable using it as a finger choil, but it is fairly large, which puts me feeling awkwardly far behind the blade. That being said, if you're using it for like draw cuts, that kind of thing, it isn't bad at all. We have a hollow ground blade fairly high, 3/4 height. 2/3 height. 2/3 height hollow ground blade. Stainless steel pocket clip, I'm assuming. I would laugh my ass off if this turned out to just be regular spring steel and it rusted on me, but that would also be kind of annoying, so please don't do that. Lock bar feels fine. It's not gritty. It feels locked out. It is locked out completely solid, which is good. Being said, ooh, it's kind of hard to see. It does appear to be a captive pivot. At the very least, there's no machine head on this side of the pivot, so if it isn't captive, I'm going to be very annoyed. What are the odds it's also a T8? So this is my Weehaw T8 bit. If you follow Metal Complex, I'm sure you've heard his voice. The tools I recommend. I mean, his recommendation is why I got the Weehaw bit kit, so that is worth noting. Anyway, let's just see. It's gonna need to be tensioned, isn't it? Is that moving that over at all? I can't tell what's it feel. Oh no. No, you can't do that. It's a free fuck. That's gonna prove really annoying. It's a free spinning pivot, but it doesn't have them like. Okay, well, this is what it is. I am gonna hold up. I'm gonna figure out this flick at some point. It feels really mushy, and I know that is just because of the nylon washers. There we are. Taking a good deal of risk. I will sort this out as I play with it more and more. Lockout is still completely solid. I'm going to have to completely disassemble this in order to get it to center, aren't I? Damn shame. Damn shame, I tell you. It is slightly more centered. There we are. I will say, tightening down the pivot a little bit, I didn't get it as tight as I'd like because this is a free spinning pivot. With it, that's gonna piss me off so much. But I was able to tighten it a little bit, and it has improved the action pretty significantly. So that's cool, at the very least. Sorry, I just broke apart my bit kit. There we go. All right. Now, for sharpness tests and other tests, the edge. Ooh. Okay, the edge definitely has some inconsistencies. Right there, there's something catching. It's not a burr. The entire edge is fairly toothy. And yeah, it is catching right around there, which is kind of annoying. We have our piece of paper. Can definitely feel where the edge isn't quite right there. Yeah, you can definitely feel where the edge isn't quite there. That being said, it is still sharp. It's not dull, other than that one catch in the edge where, I don't know what happened to it. Something happened to okay, scary moment. Is it hitting? No, there's lots of clearance there. Okay. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned this. Access to the lock bar is really good. I do give them props for that. It's higher than the scales on either side. It's really easy to access, and the jimping does actually give a reasonable amount of traction, which I can appreciate. Okay. Don't think it's going to like this very much, though. Yep. Okay. Shouldering's really heavy. Very noticeable. Catch right there. It's not like the worst thing in the world, to be honest. For 20 bucks, you're getting about as good as you can expect. And it is slicing, right? Like, the reason I do the rubber cut test is because it's not necessarily an easy material to cut through. Lots of knives do struggle with it, and it did okay. It did catch a little bit on the hole, which is to be expected, and it did have a pretty severe shouldering issue just because this is not a subtle hollow grind. I don't know how well that's... what do I have? That's a straight edge. My cassette's in the cassette player, and that doesn't have any straight edges. Lighter, this lighter that I'm trying to work on. I don't know how obvious that is in retrospect. I should probably find something. Sorry, I have stuff on my desk, and nothing on my desk is, like, free from... And it's irrelevant anyways, because it's difficult to see. But it is a fairly substantial bit of shouldering going on right there. Not the end of the world necessarily, but it is a thing. Perfectly flat scales, as you would expect. A little slippery. Let's do a puncture test real quick. Oh. That was actually surprisingly not bad. It does move a lot through its puncture, as you would expect from having this aggressive of a sheepsfoot blade. But, like, I don't know. As far as poking in goes, it's not hard. That did surprise me. It punctured a lot better than I thought it would. It'd be nice to have a little bit of jimping up here near the tip just because of the size of the knife overall, but it's nothing to complain about not having necessarily. Like I said, one position pocket clip, we'll see how annoying that gets over time. The blue color is very pretty. We'll see how long that lasts. There we are. And we'll see how long it gets me to getting consistent with that finger flick. So, initial impressions. For 20 bucks, this is definitely competitive. I do think that there's better things out there, but for 20 bucks, this is definitely competitive. So I am excited to see how this feels to experience. Non-captive pivot with only one machine head in it, though, or screw head, with only one screw head in it, is going to get to me. That's going to cause problems, but we'll carry it. We'll see what we can get. Anyway, I should be back. Oh. And we are back. So I've been carrying this guy more on than off for about 2 weeks now, and I have to say, this was a bit of an experience. So first thing first, I didn't manage to get it to fully center. I took the body screws apart, I took the pivot screw apart, I messed with everything I could think of messing with, and it just didn't work. The non-captive pivot did prove to be very annoying. Not like world-ending or anything like that. It's just, it is difficult to adjust the pivot when the pivot isn't captive and there's no tool head or tool insert on the opposite side, which is just frustrating, in my opinion. One position pocket clip did get a little bit old, but I do have to say I am actually very impressed with this pocket clip. It is a very, very cheap pocket clip, just spring steel, whatever, but it's very thick compared to a lot of these extremely inexpensive pocket knives, which actually means that, like, I don't think it's going to get particularly bent out or anything like that with time. It is fairly tough. I did manage to get to the point where I can very consistently reverse flick this knife, which is good. It was a little bit tricky to do, but not impossible. This knife is definitely designed more for like a slow roll or something like that. And to be honest, access sucks. Yeah, this is not, the hole is very small. It's not particularly accessible, and it proved to be fairly difficult to open, even with like, even slow rolling it and stuff like that. It takes a little bit to get in there and to get the knife open. But you can get it to reverse flick fairly okay. You can definitely feel where there are some savings happening. In particular, if you look at like the inside of the hole, it's completely unfinished. It's just, I'm assuming, plasma or water jet cut or something similar to that. but it's completely raw on the inside of there, which is about what you'd expect. Not all of the edges are knocked down very well. There's a little bit of roughness on the insides, which is, you know, kind of what you'd expect with this. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely far from perfect. And this is a very, very slick knife. Like, the aluminum has a little bit of almost like, not even texturing, but like crystallizing almost. But it's smooth. It's very, very slippery in the hand. This is a very slick knife to try and use when you're out and about. That being said, I didn't find it too uncomfortable. A little bit the bill of the pocket clip dug into the palm of my hand, just a little, but it really wasn't too bad. And size-wise, the blade is small enough, 2.6 inches, to where you can very comfortably put the end of your index finger for draw cuts and the like, which, you know, that does work. The blade is very soft. I did end up sharpening this. I'm pretty sure it's just like a medium, perfectly okay heat treatment on 420J2. It could also be a poor heat treatment on 420HC, but I'd be fairly confident in saying this is 420J2. Not the end of the world. I mean, it's about what you'd expect. Again, this is under $20, and it held an edge fine. Not amazing, but fine, you know? There is a little bit more room in the pivot than I would necessarily expect, which proved to be a little bit annoying. I got lots of, like, dirt, dust, and, like, hay and crap in there. But because it does have the sort of nylon washers in there, it didn't prove to be all that much of a problem. And there's no blade play in there. Maybe a little bit if I'm, like, really sending it hard, but there's not much blade play in there at all, which is good. This is fine. I mean, tip down only, not my favorite thing in the world, but as a carry experience, this is like acceptable. It's not awful. It is a sharp knife, and it does fold, and it does lock out, and it didn't feel necessarily unsafe at any point in time. Let's do some size comparisons real quick. Here it is next to a Civivi Chevalier and a Wee Knives Banter. As you can see, it is a little bit smaller than the Wee Banter, which puts it into what I personally consider to be the small knives category. This is what I consider to be the bottom of the sort of normal knives category. And just for shits and giggles, here it is next to a Buck 110 and a Zippo lighter. As you can see, it is significantly smaller than the Buck 110. In terms of thickness, I will say the edges of the scales are pretty nicely rounded over. It's a little bit of a harsh transition between the chamfered part and the non-chamfered part, but it's really not too bad. Yeah, ignoring the pocket clip, it's like slightly thicker than the blade and scale of the 110. So I think it'll be pretty comparable. Oh no, it's actually a decent amount thinner even than the Zippo. So this is not a big knife by any stretch of the imagination. It is a fairly compact knife, and it's not a big knife. I do think that the sub $20 category is competitive in a really weird way. It is a race to the bottom in many regards. I do think that there are a few gems in this area, but I think I would consider this to be perfectly average for this space. Access to the lock bar is good. You can figure out finger flick, but it is a little bit of a pain. This is definitely feels more like a slow roll opener. Liner lock is okay, never had any issues with it. The pocket clip is not my favorite. I do not particularly like this type of pocket clip. I don't like tip down very much, but it does work. So it is perfectly functional. It's just not preferred in my opinion. And it's not necessarily uncomfortable to use. It's also not super comfortable to use. So it exists in kind of this weird, this is acceptable space. I do think that you could go very wrong for 20 bucks, but in this case, I don't think you have. I just think it's fine. Hollow grind, not difficult to sharpen by any stretch of the imagination. Soft steel, not necessarily something that I would want to carry every day, But in the under $20 category, I definitely do think that this works. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily not recommend it, but I also wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's there, it's fine. Stay safe and have fun out there. Peace.